The station was always cold, had lived on 7 for 8 months now, and she still could not get used to it. The Galactic Council kept the temperature low because most alien species preferred it that way. Humans were the minority here. Humans were the minority everywhere in the galaxy. Pulled her jacket around her shoulders and walked through the main corridor of Level 4. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around her. Some were tall and thin like walking sticks. Some were short and wide with too many eyes. Some floated. Some crawled. And some, like towered over everyone else like living mountains. She kept her head down and walked faster. At 24 years old was one of the youngest humans on the station. She had come here as part of an exchange program. Earth wanted to learn from the galaxy. The galaxy, in return, wanted to study the strange little creatures from the small blue planet. Humans were new to space travel. They had only made contact with alien life 15 years ago. In galactic terms, they were bobbies. And everyone treated them like bobbies. Reached her engineering classroom and took her usual seat in the back corner. The room was designed for larger species, so the chairs were too big and the desks were too high. She had to sit on 2 cushions just to see the display screen properly. The other students were mostly an insect-like species with hard shells and clicking voices. They never spoke to her. They never even looked at her. She was used to it. The instructor, a Pelion with 6 arms and a face like melted wax, began the lesson. Took notes carefully in her small notebook. She could have used a digital tablet like everyone else, but she preferred paper. It reminded her of home. It reminded her of her grandmother. Her grandmother had died 2 years before left Earth. The old woman had lived her whole life in a coastal city in Korea. She had never seen the stars up close. She had never met an alien, but she had given something precious before she passed away. The bag. Looked down at it now, resting against her leg under the desk. It was made of brown leather, old and worn soft by decades of use. The strap was thick and strong. The handle was solid brass, heavy in the hand. Her grandmother had carried this bag every day of her adult life, now carried it. Inside the bag were her tools, her notebooks, a few snacks from the human market on Level 6, and a small photograph. The photograph showed and her grandmother standing together in front of the ocean. They were both smiling. It was the last picture they ever took together. The lesson ended, packed her things and left the classroom. She had 2 hours before her next class, so she decided to go to the cafeteria. The food there was terrible, but it was cheap, and she needed to save her credits. The cafeteria on Level 4 was a massive open space filled with long tables and strange smells. Different species ate different things. Some ate plants. Some ate meat. Some ate things that did not want to think about. She found the human section in the far corner, a small area with food that would not kill her, and ordered a bowl of rice with vegetables. She sat alone at a small table and began to eat. The cafeteria was loud. Aliens talked and laughed and argued in dozens of different languages. The universal translators built into the station walls converted everything into words she could understand, but the voices still sounded strange. Clicks and hisses and deep rumbles filled the air. Then she heard it. A voice, louder than the others, speaking in the harsh tones of the language. The translator turned it into words she understood perfectly. Look at the little earth creature, so small, so soft. I wonder if she would pop like a fruit if I stepped on her. Laughter followed, deep, rumbling laughter. Did not look up. She kept her eyes on her food and continued eating. Her hands were steady. Her face was calm, but inside her chest her heart beat a little faster. She knew that voice. Everyone on the station knew that voice. He was one of the warrior species that the Galactic Council respected and feared. Were huge, stood nearly 7 feet tall, with scaled skin the color of dried blood and 4 powerful arms. His people came from a heavy-gravity world, which made them strong and dense. They had conquered 12 planets before joining the galactic community. They looked down on every other species, but they especially looked down on humans. Humans were too small, too weak, too emotional, believed that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe, and by their measure humans had none. Had been on 7 for 3 years. In that time he had made life miserable for dozens of humans. He pushed them in hallways. He took their food. He broke their belongings. And he never faced any punishment because we're protected by their government and humans were just guests. Had avoided him for 8 months. She stayed out of his way. She took different routes through the station. She ate at odd hours. She made herself invisible. But tonight he had noticed her. She could feel his eyes on her back. She could hear his friends laughing. She could sense him moving closer, his heavy footsteps shaking the floor. Still, she did not look up. She pretends she cannot hear me, said. How cute, how pathetic. Earth creatures are all the same, no pride, no fire, just soft little animals waiting to be crushed. More laughter. Finished her rice. She stood up slowly, picked up her tray, and walked to the disposal unit. She did not run. She did not rush. She moved at a normal pace, her grandmother's bag hanging from her shoulder. She could feel watching her the whole way. She disposed of her tray and left the cafeteria without looking back. Her heart was still beating fast, but her face remained calm. She had learned a long time ago how to hide her emotions. Her grandmother had taught her that. Endure when you can, the old woman used to say. Strike when you must. Was still enduring. But as she walked back to her quarters that night, she wondered how much longer she could keep it up. She wondered how much longer before decided that watching was not enough. She wondered how much longer before he came for her. She held her grandmother's bag a little and kept walking. The station was cold. The station was always cold. But somewhere deep inside her chest, something warm was beginning to burn. The trouble started small. 3 days after the cafeteria was walking to her morning class when appeared in front of her. He did not say anything. He just stood there, blocking the entire corridor with his massive body. His 4 arms were crossed over his chest. His yellow eyes stared down at her like she was an insect. Stopped, she waited, she did not speak. Behind, his 2 friends laughed quietly. They were 2, almost as big as him, with the same scaled skin and the same cruel eyes. After a long moment, stepped aside. Just barely, just enough for her to squeeze past if she pressed herself against the wall. She did. She walked past him without a word, her shoulder brushing against the cold metal wall. She could smell him as she passed. He smelled like copper and something rotten. See you tomorrow, little creature, he said behind her. And he did. Every day for the next 2 weeks found her. He appeared in hallways, in the cafeteria, in the library, near her classroom. He never touched her. He never hit her. He just blocked her path and made her go around him. He knocked her food tray out of her hands and laughed when the rice spilled on the floor. He stood too close to her in lines and breathed his hot breath on the top of her head. And he talked, always talking. Earth creatures are so fragile, he would say. I heard that your bones break like dry sticks. Is that true? Should I test it? Why do you carry that ugly bag everywhere? It looks like dead animal skin. Did you kill it yourself, or are you too weak for that too? I do not understand why the council lets your kind on this station. You contribute nothing. You are nothing. Endured, she kept her head down, she kept her voice quiet, she kept walking. But after 2 weeks, she could not take it anymore. She went to the station security office on level 2. The office was run by the insect species that managed most of the station's administration. They were supposed to be neutral. They were supposed to protect everyone equally. Commander Pell was the officer in charge. He was tall with a shiny black shell and large compound eyes that reflected his face 100 times over. He listened to her complaint with his head tilted to one side, his mandibles clicking softly. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. This, he said finally, you say he has been following you. Yes. Has he touched you? Hesitated. He knocked my food tray, he stands too close, he blocks my path. But he has not struck you. No. Commander Pell made a sound like a sigh. Miss, they are a respected species in the galactic community. They have treaties with the Council. They have rights. I cannot take action against a citizen because he stood too close to you in a hallway. He is harassing me, said. He is threatening me. Has he made a direct threat? Thought about it, always spoke in suggestions and questions. He never said, I will hurt you. He said, I wonder if your bones would break. He was careful, he was smart. Not directly, she admitted. Commander Pell spread his arms in a gesture that meant helplessness. Then there is nothing I can do. Perhaps you should avoid him, change your schedule, take different routes. I have been doing that for 8 months. Then continue doing it. He turned back to his desk. I am sorry, miss, truly, but my hands are tied. Left the office feeling cold inside. She called her brother that night on the communication screen in her quarters. His face appeared, warm and familiar, and for a moment she felt like she was back home. Was 30 years old, 6 years older than. He worked as a translator on the other side of the station, helping human traders communicate with alien merchants. He had been on 7 for 3 years. He knew how things worked here. Transfer to another section, he told her. Level 12 has good engineering classes too. You can stay away from him. Running will not help, said. If I run, he will just chase me. His kind respects strength, not fear. You cannot fight it, they are twice your size. They have 4 arms. I know. Was quiet for a moment. Then he said softly, what would grandmother say? Closed her eyes. She could almost hear the old woman's voice. Endure when you can, strike when you must. She would tell me to be patient, said. Then be patient, things will get better. But things did not get better. 1 week later was walking through the cargo bay on level 3. It was late in the evening. The cargo bay was mostly empty, filled with crates and shadows. She was taking a shortcut to the human market to buy food for the week. She did not see until he stepped out from behind a crate and blocked her path. He was alone this time. No friends, no witnesses. Little creature, he said. His voice echoed in the empty bay. I have been looking for you. Stopped, her heart was beating fast, but her face was calm. Let me pass. No, he stepped closer. I want to see something. He reached down with one of his 4 arms and grabbed the strap of her grandmother's bag. Tried to pull away, but he was too strong. He yanked the bag off her shoulder so hard that the strap broke with a loud snap. Stumbled, pain shot through her shoulder. Held up the bag and looked at it with disgust. This is what you carry everywhere, this primitive garbage. He turned it over in his hands, examining the old leather, the brass handle, the careful stitching. It looks like something from a museum of failure. Give it back. His voice was quiet but steady. Laughed, then he threw the bag on the floor. Before could move, he lifted his heavy foot and stomped down on it. The leather crunched. The brass handle bent. Something inside the bag cracked. Felt something crack inside her too. That is better, said. He was smiling now, showing rows of sharp teeth. Now it looks like what it is. Garbage, just like you, just like your whole species. He turned and walked away, still laughing. His footsteps echoed through the cargo bay until the silence returned. Stood alone in the shadows. She did not move for a long time. Then slowly she knelt down and picked up her grandmother's bag. The leather was torn. The strap was broken. The brass handle was bent but not broken. Inside, her notebook was crushed. Her tools were scattered, and the photograph of her and her grandmother was creased down the middle. She held the damaged photograph in her trembling hands. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. Something had changed inside her. Something had broken. And something else, something that had been sleeping for a long time, had finally woken up. She put the photograph back in the bag. She stood up straight. She began walking home. Tomorrow she would repair the bag. And then she would decide what to do next. Did not sleep that night. She sat at the small table in her quarters with her grandmother's bag spread out before her. The leather was torn in 3 places. The strap was completely broken. The brass handle was bent at a bad angle, but none of it was destroyed beyond repair. Her grandmother had made this bag to last. It had survived decades of use. It would survive one bully. Took out her sewing kit and began to work. Her grandmother had taught her how to sew when she was only 6 years old. The old woman believed that everyone should know how to fix things with their own hands. Machines break, she used to say. Tools break, but skills stay with you forever. Stitch the torn leather with strong thread. She reinforced the weak spots with extra layers. She fashioned a new strap from materials she had in her toolkit, and she straightened the brass handle with careful pressure, bending it back into shape. By the time she finished, the station's artificial lights had shifted from night mode to morning mode. She had been working for 7 hours. Her fingers were sore. Her eyes were tired, but the bag was whole again. Not perfect, not like before, but whole. She held it in her hands and felt its familiar weight. Then she looked at the brass handle. It was heavy, solid, about 8 inches long. Her grandmother had chosen it specifically because it was strong enough to last a lifetime. Strong enough to break bone. Had learned Hapkido when she was 8 years old. Her grandmother had insisted on it. A woman must know how to protect herself, the old woman had said. The world is full of people who mistake kindness for weakness. For 16 years had trained. She had learned to punch and kick and throw. She had learned joint locks and pressure points. She had learned how to use her opponent's strength against them. She had learned that size meant nothing if you knew where to strike. She had never used her training in a real fight. She had never needed to. Until now. Spent the morning reviewing what she knew about biology. The station's database had plenty of information, were big and heavy, but their bones were not as dense as they looked. Their species had evolved on a world with slightly lower gravity than Earth, so their skeletons were optimized for mobility rather than durability. They were hollow in places, lighter than they should be. Breakable. At noon, ate a small meal and drank some water. She stretched her muscles and practiced her breathing. She felt calm, calmer than she had felt in months. The fear was gone. The uncertainty was gone. All that remained was a cold, clear purpose. She picked up her grandmother's bag, put it on her shoulder, and left her quarters. She walked her usual route. She knew would be waiting. He was. The corridor near the cargo bay was quiet in the early afternoon. Most aliens were working or eating, stood in the middle of the path with his 2 friends behind him. They were laughing about something. When they saw approaching, they stopped and smiled. "Look who it is," said. His yellow eyes moved to the bag on her shoulder. "I see you fixed your garbage. What a waste of time. I will just break it again." Stopped 5 feet away from him. She did not speak. She just stood there looking up at him with calm eyes. Tilted his head. Something in her expression must have seemed different to him because his smile faded slightly. "What is wrong with you, little creature? You look strange today." "Nothing is wrong," said. Her voice was soft and steady. "I just wanted to see you." His smile returned. "Oh, have you finally accepted your place? Are you here to beg for mercy?" "No." She did not move. She did not blink. She just waited. His eyes narrowed. He did not like this. He was used to seeing fear in human eyes. He was used to watching them run. This human was not running. This human was not afraid. It made him angry. "Fine," he said. "Then I will take your bag again, and this time I will burn it." He reached down with his primary arm, the largest of his 4 limbs. His clawed hand moved toward her shoulder. Exploded into motion. She had been waiting for this. She had been watching his arm, tracking its movement, calculating the distance. The moment his hand came within range, she to the left and grabbed his wrist with both hands. She twisted hard, using her entire body weight to rotate his arm into an unnatural angle. Grunted in surprise. He tried to pull back but was already moving. She yanked the brass handle out of her bag with one smooth motion and brought it down on the inside of his elbow with all her strength. The sound was like a branch snapping in winter. Screamed. It was a horrible sound, high and raw, echoing off the metal walls of the corridor. He staggered backward, clutching his arm with his other 3 hands. The joint was bent the wrong way. Bone poked against the inside of his scaled skin, not quite breaking through but close, very close. His friends stood frozen. They could not believe what they were seeing. A human, a tiny human female, had just shattered the arm of a warrior. Stepped forward. She still held the brass handle in her hand. Her eyes were locked on his face. "Listen to me carefully," she said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "I know about your bones. I know they are hollow. I know exactly where to hit to break them. You have 3 arms left. If you ever touch me again, if you ever touch my bag again, if you ever even look at me wrong, I will break all 3 of them. Do you understand?" Stared at her. His yellow eyes were wide with shock and pain. He had never been hurt before, not like this, not by prey. "You are insane," he whispered. "You are a dead creature walking. When the council hears about this, they will execute you. They will." "Let them try," said. "I have already lost my grandmother. I have already lost my home. There is nothing you can take from me that I have not already given up. But I promise you this. Before anyone punishes me, I will make sure you can never use those arms again." She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away. His friends did not try to stop her. They just stood there, staring, as she disappeared around the corner. Behind her kept screaming. Walked all the way back to her quarters. She closed the door behind her and sat down on her bed. Her hands were shaking now. The adrenaline was fatting, and the reality of what she had done was starting to sink in. She had broken a arm, a member of a warrior species, a protected citizen. There would be consequences. But as she sat there in the quiet of her room, holding her grandmother's bag in her lap, she realized something strange. She did not regret it. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. "Endure when you can, strike when you must." She had endured long enough. Today she had struck. And whatever came next, she would face it the same way she had faced everything else in her life. Standing up. They came for her 2 hours later. Station security arrived at her door with weapons drawn. 4 officers in black armor, their compound eyes reflecting the light in her quarters. Behind them stood Commander Pell, his mandibles clicking with what sounded like satisfaction. "Of Earth," he said formally, "you are under arrest for assault against a citizen. You will come with us now." Did not resist. She put her grandmother's bag on her bed, took one last look at it, and walked out the door with her hands raised. The officers surrounded her and marched her through the corridors of the station. Aliens stopped to watch. Humans stopped to watch. Word had already spread. The tiny Earth female had broken his arm with a bag handle. Some looked at her with fear. Some looked at her with curiosity. And some, mostly humans, looked at her with something that might have been respect. They took her to a holding cell on level 1, deep in the security section of the station. The cell was small and cold, with metal walls and a hard bench for sleeping. There was no window. There was no clock. She had no idea how much time was passing. Commander Pell visited her once. He stood outside her cell with his arms folded across his shell, looking down at her through the transparent barrier. "The government has filed a formal complaint," he said, "is demanding punishment under their honor code. Do you know what that means?" Looked up at him. "Execution." "Yes," his voice was cold. "You broke the arm of a warrior. In culture, that is a grave insult. They believe that death is the only appropriate response." "I defended myself. He attacked me first." He reached for your bag. That is not an attack under galactic law. He harassed me for weeks. I reported it to you. You did nothing. Commander Pell's mandibles clicked again. That is not relevant to the current situation. You committed violence against a protected species. The consequences are clear. He turned and walked away. Sat alone in her cell and waited. She thought about her grandmother. She thought about her brother. She thought about home. She wondered if she would ever see Earth again, the blue oceans and green mountains, the streets of, the smell of the sea. She closed her eyes and tried to rest. But she could not sleep. Whenever she closed her eyes, she saw his face. She heard his screams. She felt the brass handle connecting with his arm, the way it had cracked under the impact. She did not regret what she had done, but she was afraid of what would happen next. Hours passed, maybe days, she could not tell. Then, without warning, everything changed. The door to her cell opened and Commander Pell walked in, but he looked different this time. His movements were stiff. His compound eyes seemed to be looking everywhere except at her face. "You are free to go," he said. "Blink to what?" "The charges against you have been dropped. The government has withdrawn its complaint. You are no longer under arrest." She stood up slowly, not sure if she should believe him. "Why? What happened?" Commander Pell was silent for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a sigh. The footage was released. "What footage?" "Security cameras," he said. "The corridors on level 4, level 3, the cargo bay. Someone accessed the station's archives and pulled every recording of your interactions with over the past several weeks. Every time he blocked your path, every time he threatened you, every time he touched your belongings, and the incident in the cargo bay when he destroyed your bag, all of it." His heart began to beat faster. Someone released it. It was broadcast across the entire station network. Every display screen, every communication device, every public terminal. Everyone saw it. Everyone. She could not believe what she was hearing. Who did this? Commander Pell shook his head. "We do not know. The signal was untraceable, but it does not matter. The damage is done." He handed her a small data tablet. On the screen was a news report from a journalist named. The headline read, "Human female fights back after weeks of documented abuse." Scrolled through the article. It described everything. His harassment, her complaints to station security, Commander Pell's dismissal of her concerns, and finally the confrontation in the corridor shown from 3 different camera angles. The article also included something else. A list of other humans who had come forward after the footage was released. 12 names. 12 different people. Engineers, doctors, technicians, maintenance workers. All of them had been harassed by over the past 3 years. All of them had reported it. All of them had been ignored. "The Galactic Council has launched an investigation," Commander Pell said. His voice was flat, empty. "They are reviewing my handling of human complaints. They are also examining his record. It appears he has a history of this behavior across multiple stations." Looked up at him, and what happens to him? He has been deported, banned from all human-inhabited zones for life. His government has disowned him to avoid a diplomatic incident. He is finished. She let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. "And what happens to you?" she asked. Commander Pell's mandibles clicked once sharply. "I have been reassigned, effective immediately. A new commander will take over security operations on 7. He turned toward the door, then stopped. For a moment, he seemed like he wanted to say something else, but then he just shook his head and walked away. Stood alone in the empty cell. The door was open. She was free. She walked out of the security section and into the main corridors of the station. Everything looked the same as before, but something felt different. Aliens who passed her in the hallway stepped aside. They gave her space. They looked at her with new eyes. Not fear, not pity, something else. Respect. When she reached her quarters, her brother was waiting outside the door. His face was pale and his eyes were red like he had been crying. When he saw her, he pulled her into a tight hug. "I thought I lost you," he said. "I thought they were going to take you away." She hugged him back. "I am here, I am okay." "I know." He pulled back and looked at her with wonder. "I saw the footage. Everyone saw the footage. Do you know what you did? You changed everything." She shook her head. "I just defended myself." "No," said. "You did more than that. You showed them what we are. You showed them that humans are not prey. You showed them that we fight back." He pressed his forehead against hers, a gesture from their childhood. Grandmother would be proud. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away. "Come on," she said. "I need to get my bag, and then I need to sleep for about 100 years." Laughed and opened the door for her. Her grandmother's bag was still on the bed, exactly where she had left it. She picked it up and held it against her chest. The leather was scratched and stitched. The brass handle was dented, but it was still whole, just like her. Outside the window, the stars were shining. Tomorrow would be a new day. 3 weeks passed. The station returned to normal, or at least what passed for normal on 7. Aliens went to work. Merchants sold their goods. Ships came and went from the docking bays. The galaxy kept spinning as it always did. But for the humans on the station, everything had changed. Noticed it on the first day she returned to her engineering class. When she walked into the room, the students looked up at her. For 8 months they had ignored her completely. Now they made eye contact. Some of them even nodded in greeting. She took her usual seat in the back corner. But this time, a student sitting nearby turned to her and spoke. "I saw the footage," he said. His clicking voice was translated into flat words, but there was something like warmth in his tone. "That was impressive. I did not know humans could move so fast." Did not know what to say, she simply nodded. "Thank you." "My name is," the said. "If you need help with the coursework, you can ask me." She blinked in surprise. No alien had ever offered to help her before. "I appreciate that." The class began and took notes as usual, but something felt different. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer just the small human in the corner. She was someone who had stood up, someone who had fought back, someone who had won. That evening, she had dinner at the human market on level 6. The market was a small section of the station dedicated to human food and goods. It was always busy with humans who missed the taste of home. They sat at a tiny table near a food stall that served Korean dishes, ordered kimchi stew, and ordered grilled meat with rice. For a while, they just ate in comfortable silence. "I heard an interesting thing today," said finally. He was smiling in that way that meant he had news. "A trader came to my office for translation services. When he saw my name, he asked if I was related to you." Raised an eyebrow. "What did you tell him?" "I told him, yes, you are my sister. And do you know what he did?" "What?" "He bowed," laughed softly. "Abode to me. He said his clan wants no trouble with our family. He said they have heard about the human woman who broke a warrior's arm and they respect strength. He actually used that word. Respect." Shook her head slowly. "That is strange." "Is it?" Leaned forward. "You did something that no human on this station has ever done. You fought and won. In their culture, that means something. It means you are not prey. It means you are a predator." "I am not a predator. I just refuse to be a victim." To them, it is the same thing. They finished their meal and walked back through the corridors of the station. Noticed that aliens were still giving her space. Not running away, not looking afraid, but keeping a respectful distance. Stepping aside when she approached, meeting her eyes and then looking away. She was not sure how she felt about it. She had never wanted to be feared. She had only wanted to be left alone. But maybe fear was not the right word. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was recognition. The humans on the station had started coming to her too. Some of them just wanted to shake her hand. Some of them wanted to thank her for what she had done, and some of them wanted to share their own stories. A woman named, who worked in the medical bay, told about a doctor who had mocked her skills for months. After the footage was released, the doctor had stopped. He had not apologized, but he had stopped. A man named, who ran a small repair shop, told about an alien merchant who had refused to pay him for his work. After seeing the footage, the merchant had come back and paid double. And there were others, dozens of others, humans who had been pushed and mocked and ignored for years, finally feeling like they had a voice. Listened to all of them. She did not know what to say, so she just listened. She nodded and held their hands and told them that things would get better. She hoped it was true. A new commander had taken over station security. Her name was, and she was a Pelian, one of the six-armed species. She was nothing like Commander Pell. She was fair and efficient, and she actually listened when humans filed complaints. The number of harassment cases had dropped by half in just 3 weeks. Things were changing, slowly, but they were changing. 1 month after the incident, was walking through the docking bay when she saw something that made her stop. A human transport ship had just arrived from Earth. New arrivals were streaming out of the airlock, looking around with wide eyes at the alien station that would be their home. Some of them were young, some of them were old. All of them looked nervous. One of them was a boy who could not have been older than 18. He was skinny and pale, with messy black hair and a battered suitcase clutched in both hands. He looked completely lost. As watched, a large alien shoved past the boy, nearly knocking him off his feet. The boy stumbled and dropped his suitcase. The alien did not even look back. The boy bent down to pick up his suitcase. His hands were trembling. His eyes were wet. Walked over to him. "Are you okay?" she asked. The boy looked up at her. He blinked rapidly, trying to clear his eyes. "I am fine," he said, but his voice cracked. Held out her hand and helped him to his feet. "What is your name?" The boy said, "I just arrived. I am supposed to be an engineering student." "Engineering?" smiled. "That is what I study too, level 4, right?" Nodded eagerly. "Yes, do you know where it is? I am completely lost." "I know where everything is. Come on, I will show you." She picked up his suitcase and handed it to him. Then she turned and began walking toward the main corridor, hurried to keep up. As they walked, the alien who had shoved came back. He was not as big as but still massive compared to the humans. He saw and stopped in his tracks. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then the lowered his head. "My apologies," he said. "I did not see your friend. It will not happen again." He walked away quickly, disappearing into the crowd. Stared after him with his mouth open. Did that alien just apologize to us? Yes. Why? Smiled and kept walking. Because he knows better now. They are learning that humans are not as weak as they look. We come from a hard world, a world with heavy gravity and extreme weather and predators that have been trying to kill us for millions of years. We survived all of it. We are still surviving. "I never thought about it like that," said. "Most humans do not, but the galaxy is starting to understand." She glanced back at him. "We are small, but we are not fragile. We are just built different, built to endure, built to adapt, and when we have no other choice, built to fight." They reached the elevator that would take them to level 4, pressed the button and waited. "The station can be difficult at first," she told, "but you will learn the rules. You will find your place, and if anyone gives you trouble, you come find me. My name is, everyone knows where to find me." The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside. "Thank you," said. His voice was stronger now. "I will remember." Nodded. The doors closed, and the elevator began to rise. She looked down at her grandmother's bag resting against her hip. The leather was worn and patched. The brass handle was dented, but it was still whole. It had carried her through everything. "Endure when you can," her grandmother had said. "Strike when you must." Had done both, and now she was ready to help others do the same. The elevator reached level 4. The doors opened, stepped out into the corridor with beside her. "Welcome to 7," she said. "Stay close. I will teach you everything I know." They walked forward together, into the cold light of the station. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. That was about to change.